makes it into top 1, who gets directly placed into the round of 8. Certainly, the sight is set for Dark on that. Let's see if he can go ahead and clean up Clem and perhaps reach towards it. We have our game finally ready to go. It's going to be on Gressvon to start things off. In the bottom right for DPG, he is the Red Zerg, Dark.
And his opponent in the top left side of the map, representing Team Liquid, hailing from France, the man that is looking for that World Championship trophy. It's Clem.
Always the test for Clem. Dark has proven himself. He has won a global championship. Katowice still just out of his reach, however, despite being basically the most consistent, best performing player in this tournament's history. He has actually not, I believe, made it to the finals and has not, as such, actually won an event. And as he is, unfortunately, going to be going to military, he talked on that earlier, actually a very kind of emotional interview, to be honest, that he got that message at 5 a.m. yesterday morning that he definitely has to go. We've known for a while now that he has a lot of passion about winning this tournament, and I think that hopefully has spurred him on. He seems to have at least not let it impact him emotionally, mentally, right? Only slipping a bit in a ZVZ against Ragnarok so far.
Indeed, he's going to be spurred on to get that historic victory here at Katowice. Something which Dark will be very hungry for. I think he's still got that flair in his play. Don't think he'll be feeling the pressure too hard. Mass Muta, we can only dream. I would love to see some Mutas. Some of these maps are pretty long. Some good dead space. It's actually really arguable that Mutas is very viable.
Yeah, you know, I think, yes, there's some discussion about that. I think everyone just loves the idea of a very classic TVZ as well. Ling Bang Ling Muta versus Biomine. I mean, that is just the most intense StarCraft you can really ask for. But as it is, even with the maps, perhaps leaning a little bit more to the possibility, it seems like there are just so many other good options for the Zerg that they don't necessarily go for it. But Dark has shown that. He is definitely very versatile. Ling Baneling, Ling Hydra, Lurkers, Roach play, Roach Ravager, and Fester, not afraid of spellcasters, and yes, occasionally he does go Mass Muta, but it just seems like it's not really hitting the meta right now.
6 Lings to defend the Reaper, even though it's one of the longest rush distances in the pool. A very dark way of defending early on. Does like to overcommit to make sure he never gives up control. And that is just the way he's going to be doing it here. 4-gas Ultra is one of the big things he's been playing a bit as well. Just massling Bane up into those Ultras, skipping the Hydras entirely. Something that's very dangerous if you don't have up big units that can get through the armor of those Ultralisks early on. Of course, Ultras are smaller, and they are a little bit better at actually landing their hits when the enemy's running backwards away from them, as the patch did buff them a bit. Clem going to be going 3rd command center there, nice and early, going for his trademark style.
Exactly, and when I talked to him about it, he just said basically he's so confident. You know, if he actually plays his best game possible, then he doesn't need to rely on something else that gets him ahead, perhaps in a different way, in a more aggressive way, right? Perhaps the 3rd CC does come ahead a little bit economically if someone isn't really expecting it. But at this point, Clem is not, you know, he's not seeing it as a downside that he does this all the time, and that perhaps his opponents know that he's going to do this 90% of the time. He really believes in his potential to play out this matchup and just needs to show up on the day.
Quick Roach Warren going down there for Dark. Looks like he's considering going for some sort of aggression. No Ling speed starting up at all, though, so it feels to me like this is just defensive Roaches. Maybe postures across the map with 4 or 5 of them to threaten, force a bunker, make Clem panic. I actually think we're going to be seeing just mass Roach Ravager style. This is something which Cyril actually pulled out earlier last year to really limit Clem's ability to pick away units with medevac drops. Roaches and Ravagers as ranged units don't struggle as much as Zerglings. You know, you get those Marines in a corner, the Zerglings really struggle, you can keep picking up and dropping, but Roach Ravager, the Terran kind of has to respect it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And for Clem, once he realizes this is happening, he needs to not lose his Banshees. He's got to keep those alive because they can defend attacks all game long.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a bit of a Dark special as well, right, though? Getting that Roach Warren and then maybe, or, you know, maybe yes, maybe no, and actually producing the Roaches, especially when it comes down to is it scouted or is it not. So far, actually committing to a handful, having pushed away the scouting units, could come across the map, but then the Banshees, if they're in position, they would immediately stop it. So it actually looks like Clem is going to miss the Roaches headed towards the very south of the map. It's only 4, actually. So they're going to be able to, like, peck and prod, but not necessarily do all that much damage. But look at this. Clem, he is going to be going for some battle mech this game.
Yeah, and I think that's why the Roach choice is actually so good for Dark as well. Same map he did it on last time. Clem is very predictable. You were just analyzing how he is that, and of course Dark has predicted it here as well. He's going to try and distract him with some Roaches on the backside while getting ahead at home. Those Roaches are going to be a bit of a surprise. Luckily the Banshee is close, but it looks like she's not going to spot them coming in.
That is a bit disappointing. There we have Clem going for the pinwheels. Gonna get some speedy Banshees. Lots of gas coming up as well. I mean, Dark might have this in mind, but has actually seen something that has confirmed, like the gas count. You know, the Overlord's a bit far away from that 3rd CC. So the Roaches, well, have seen a large number of Hellions that aren't actually going to dive. Saw something actually guarding that, decided not to go for it. This might be the first actually true sign of what is to come. Again, it's 4 Roaches. Doesn't sound like that much, right? But taking out the SCVs, they could grab quite a few. Nice mineral pool there. That was a nice surround against the Roaches, but they're so sturdy. I mean, Hellions come back. They will eventually clean this up, but there you have it. 10 SCVs going down just to those 4 Roaches.
Such a slick trade. We always talked about the backstabs. The attacks catching Clem off guard when he's the one who wants to be attacking. And Clem always wants to be attacking. He's one of the best in the world at it. Unfortunately, he pulls back, does not kill that Overlord. Slight mistake there with the Banshee positioning, but the rallied Cyclone will deal with that. It's a mass Cyclone Hellion Banshee. It's the battle mech style that we've all been raving about now. I've been a big proponent of you need Infestors to deal with this. Rushing Vipers can work as well, but a lot of the pros are saying, no, Infestors doesn't work. The Banshees just focus them down too quickly. I feel like if there's one guy who believes in the power of the Infestor, though, it's got to be Dark.
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be my point, man. You know, like, you might say that some other Zerg players are a little hesitant to go for it, either just the game goes in a direction they can't really think of it, they can't really afford it, or because they actually have a theory that it isn't good. But I feel like Dark is the guy that's going to be like, no, I'm great with these units, you know, and it's great against this style when used correctly. You know, that's exactly what he's going to go for to help him out here. So he is lining everything up to deal with the battle mech style. Should be fairly happy about the Roaches doing that damage. And so far, the defense against the Hellion Banshee has been fine, even with 3 Banshees, now 4, excuse me, and more to come, by the way, speeding along, trying to find damage. It hasn't been all that much.
Oh, they are getting quite damaged Banshees. Very high damage dealers, but very fragile. And remember, Fungal later on can also catch these units.
Very
2
nice.
Cyclones going down with the Focus Fire, make it 3. Oh, those are expensive units to be losing. You only want to trade the Aliens. You do not want to lose Cyclones.
Yeah, that was excellent target fire there from Dark, realizing there was an opportunity to jump on top of Clem before he pulled back. And that was even before there had potentially Ravagers, which have that extra range, which help out a little bit. These are just Roaches right now, as Dark affords plenty of other technology. So not trying to overwhelm and just safeguard based on having a maxed out army. Now he is actually staying below 150 just about, getting all the technology, all of the upgrades, even in Tunneling Claws coming down here, and he's just sizing up for more of that later section of the mid game where he should be very powerful.
3 more factories going down here for Clem on his first person view. He's got a 4th command center building and an engineering bay coming down as well, just in case there are those burrowed Infestors sneaking up on him. You can see here the Cyclones are able to do those hit and run tactics. Very annoying for the Zerg to deal with, but the way Dark micros back and forth, and he's always looking for the focus fire. If those Cyclones get just too close to him by even a little bit, he'll be very quick to punish.
Yeah. You know, at this point, I actually wonder if Clem's thinking something must be happening. I have not seen an overwhelming number of Roaches, no Ravagers, no additional technology. Looks like he's just going with the flow, thinks that he has an opportunity, is going to get, was that a kill? Not a cancel, and the Roaches are actually being quite aggressive despite the Banshee. He's still shooting from above. Something's got to shoot up. Got to come on the board, and there it is! The Infestors, they were coming from all different directions. Every last one of their fungal hit something important. The Cyclones will be able to escape. 2 Banshees will track the rest of the Infestors down, but Dark was setting up that shark attack, and to a point it was successful, but Clem is not going to buckle against it.
Those Roaches focusing down a few Cyclones there on the way out. Very nice trades here for Dark. And Dark is just really picking him apart so far. Clem is not way ahead on bases. He doesn't have more army. And now with a Hive on the way to round things out, Vipers are on the menu. The transition usually off the back of this is to Ghost Mech. That is the next step, but he's nowhere near it yet.
No, he's actually dealing with all these Tunneling Claws at this point, which maybe aren't getting big hits, you know, not killing 10, 12, 20, but they are a constant distraction. They all have to be cleaned up. It's something that Clem has to worry about in the future. It's always affording those missile turrets. And yeah, the expansion process just not as fast as you'd really hope. Battle Mech, despite being mech, is actually an extremely fast style, and it's kind of losing that momentum as it comes back here to deal with the harassment.
Roaches are cheap, they're expendable, but as you said, you want to be the one forwards on the map, using that mobility to your advantage, not just to play cleanup. That's all Clem's been doing for the last minute or two. He's feeling a lot of urgency to get back across to the Zerg side of the map. And Barracks and Ghost Academies are going down. Nice on Burrow, ambush. Dark using all of the stops, just pulling out his dirty tricks. And he keeps on catching off Clem's very valuable units. Another Fungal lands, and that's going to be bam! 3 more Banshees shot out of the sky by the Fungal.
Yeah, I mean, Dark is not overwhelming at any point so far, but then, as you said, just showing the full bag of tricks from Zerg has got to make this so much more intimidating than perhaps Clem is necessarily used to. And by the way, kind of used to is a bit of a weird statement for Clem when it comes to Battle Mech. I mean, it's been a while since it was even a popular choice, and even as we see it here today, it was within the last week that he actually started to consider going for Battle Mech. So the practice isn't necessarily all there, not compared to his bio anyways, but he is at least making it work. He is, of course, alive, and he is making that transition that Pig was talking about into the Ghosts and into the tanks.
Tanks, yeah, you'll add Thors if you need to later, but just tanks, Hellbats, and Ghosts is a very scary army, and it becomes such a battle of who gets the spells off. If you can EMP the Infestors, your tanks are going to reign supreme, but if they can land Blinding Clouds and Neuroparasites, oh, you're going to have a very bad time. And that's why, of course, getting set up is important. Clem only now starts his double armory, so very late with that.
Yeah, not any upgrades there. Dark has been going all offense on the upgrades, +2 attack for missiles and for melee are on the way. Finally finishing up some speed as well. Going to open opportunities for run buys, perhaps Nidus Firms actually as we go into the late game here. And then also just to get some surrounds occasionally, just messing up the Helling Fire, getting on top of the Cyclones, or even diving on top of unguarded tanks. That's actually where that metabolic boost is going to be extremely helpful.
Yeah, having a sprinkling of Lings seems to always be fantastic, and Banelings will give the ability to overwhelm Ghosts as well as bust planetary fortresses very suddenly. Allows you to boost up the power level of your maxed out army, as that max out is always a big barrier for players in StarCraft 2. Zerglings, Roaches, Hydras, Infestors, Vipers coming in. It's a bit of an awkward angle, and Dark wisely does back off.
Yeah, that was not going to work out. Yes, it was everything and the kitchen sink, but still, Clem also was already moving on to a more grounded defensive type of army with the Cyclones can run out of space to maneuver. Tanks, they love standing their ground. They'll definitely take that fight on that joke up a ramp. So Dark definitely going to be looking more for the spellcasting usage. He is continuing to get all of the upgrades, including now even Neural Parasite, opening up further options with a Lurker Den, Bailing Nest, and now we have a Spire on the way. We could see Greater Spire later down the line, and it's Gressfon, guys, so we are going to expand all over this map. We're going to get ourselves a nice late-game TVZ.
Fascinating to see how this one goes down. Armor upgrades on the way for those Ghosts, as well as a third Barracks to up that production for Clem. And does he plan to do a big maxed out push, or is he going to play very turtly and safe? That to me does not really... I don't think of that as the way that Clem likes to play. Yeah. You know, Clem, Raynor, these are the guys that get antsy if they've got to sit home defending for a few minutes. Like, oh, this isn't the StarCraft I like. I want to be attacking, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly what to do. It's going to get back on the offensive, but the Vipers now able to, they're out. They're able to abduct right. They're going to help tear down some of those Cyclones. Not as good as abducting as they once were back when Battle Mech was last popular, so I guess keep that in mind. The Roaches are looking to do a little bit of a shark attack as well as trade themselves out. Most likely going to try and jump on top of that planetary. We're watching also just apprehension if Dark pulls the trigger on the main engagement. Here come the Vipers, here come the abducts, all before the Ghosts pay attention. They do try to get some revenge with the snipes, but a lot of the army able to evacuate.
Yeah, great abducts there. Some snipes did punish, but only so much, and the planetary did, of course, stand strong on the left side of the map at the end of the day. But very important for Dark to get rid of those Roaches. They were a supply waste. They really were just chewing up supply, not dealing enough damage to be impactful this late in the game. Looks like Clem wants to start marching forward, making some inroads into the Zerg's territory.
He keeps on trying, but Dark is once again ready to go, looking for the Fungals on the Ghosts in particular. Some tanks anchoring what is now turned into, well, more of a defense, actually, as we have the rest of the army trying to evacuate Ghosts and Cyclones. Once the Zerg army does show signs of retreat, they will suddenly get a lot of damage done. But if Dark doesn't have to retreat, then just keep on pushing. The Cyclones will eventually run out of room. But more tanks were there. The Planetary was there. No one breaking each other so far.
Love to see the units lost tab in this game, as that's going to be fascinating to check the effectiveness of both players. Clem only ahead by 2,000 resources, not particularly impressive for this matchup. On the other hand, Dark doesn't have a great bank. They're both pretty much maxed out. Neither player has a big mineral bank. Dark does have excess gas in the bank as he builds 7. Corruptus is the greatest spire already finished?
I believe so. Yeah, he added a second spire, so yep, it is finished. Adding on an upgrade fort as well. And actually all the upgrades, once again, full production tabs for both players, even Clem continuing to add on the bio upgrades, because of course he's making ghosts. I think we're all crossing our fingers a little bit for some nukes, but that hasn't come into effect yet.
Yeah, definitely nukes aren't something I imagine I've seen Clem doing too much over the years, but eventually it does become a very important part of Terran late game. You've got those transformation servos to quickly swap modes. No Thors on the map yet, and I do worry that these Broodlords are just going to make a bit of a conundrum for Clem. How practiced is he really at microing this army against Broods?
Well, if he transitions over into those Thors, it'll be a little bit easier for him. I was just humming at all those Overlords that transformed into Dropper Lords, and they all for the Ling drops. So Adrenal Gland's not going to be quite done, but still going to be a lot of chaos in the main base, as Clem is no doubt more so focusing on the front engagement, looking to dodge any spells that he absolutely has to, right? So here come the Lings. Is Clem, does he even have anything? He's maxed out, right? So he's not even reinforcing with anything. One single missile turret, but that's a decent amount of Lings. And as the Adrenal Gland finishes in about 10 seconds, that'll be a lot of damage.
What a masterpiece move for Dark here. Snipes and tanks do take out some of the front row infestors, but the Broodlords are hammering home on those tanks, and he does it while dropping Lings in the main. Dark never making it easy for his opponent. He says, no, mass Ling drop in the main while I surprise you with the Broodlords. Let's have you deal with everything at once.
Yeah, that was a 1-2 right there. Clem is trying to handle everything in the main base. He cleans up the Lings. As far as the main engagement, he is absolutely on the run. The Thor's coming in a little bit late to the party. It's only the Ghost trying to make things work. They are getting some snipes, but the Fungal and the Blinding Clouds come down. The spellcasting so good from Dark, who also takes down that Planetary. He will try to evacuate, and this is again where those snipes are so good at getting some return damage. Perhaps the Broodlords will fall, but did they do their job? They did.
Yeah, definitely looking very good for them. The Ghosts want revenge so badly. Even catching all the Broodlords, this is still a positive trade for Dark, and he's getting more and more tanks and units on the way. The transfuses on the Broodlords making it as difficult as possible. The Thors and the Ghosts now getting overrun by the Ling Hydra Remax. Watch out, Clem.
Yeah, Dark, I mean, these guys have actually been just so at each other's throats, right, that no one really has that humongous bank. So usually you're questioning sometimes in late game scenarios that Remax from the Zerg, did they actually keep up with their larva? In this case, it's so back and forth. No one really has an astounding bank, just Dark's gas. But he is remaxing on Ling, Baneling, Hydra. He's going to go with momentum. He's going to try and get into every nook and cranny and overwhelm Clem before he remaxes, rolling Banelings into Thors. I believe this is where Artosis would have said so many Banelings, and they do take out quite a few of them. But that was a hefty loss of minerals and gas on the retreat. Was Dark a little overeager? Perhaps.
Maybe, but he is getting enough damage in a lot of these areas. Like, yeah, the Thors aren't going down, but SCV's Ghost Hellions are. And that is why we see at the end of that, Clem's still down on the units lost tab. You never want to be down against the Zerg player, but Dark is just outplaying him with these tech switches, with the spellcaster usage, and all the rest of it. You know, he used the Broodlords to bully Clem backwards. Clem needs to find a way to get his Ghosts further forward for the EMPs, and that is a very tricky problem for him to solve right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get another chance at remaxing. He has taken the bottom left of Gresspawn without too much interruption. I believe that is a second Lurker Den. Dark might have forgotten he already got one, or... well, maybe he canceled or something like that. So, no, he definitely needs it. So he is going to eventually add on those upgrades, eventually add on that option of going into Lurkers. But right now, maxed out Ling, Hydra, actually at this point, not too many Banelings. Still a few key spellcasters in the army.
That south side base looking very juicy as a target for Dark's next move in. Morphing a bunch of Banelings would be a good idea. Looks like he's getting a lot of Banes ready on the south side. And the double Lurker Den ready for those upgrades. Going to try and work this angle. Very cute abducting siege tanks.
There's a good angle for it. Not going to overstay his welcome this time, though. He does want to go ahead and try and bust some of the lower expansions by the looks of things. Dark, of course, has taken his side of the map. Tons of creep to work with. But as we continue to get another maxed out scenario, Clem is once again nearing maxed out. The question does eventually become, right, for TVZ, how many minerals are left on the map? How many times can the Zerg do this? So as much as Dark has been taking some of these fights, being a bag of tricks really as far as Zerg goes, Clem is holding on.
The Banelings coming in towards this planetary in the south. They're going to try and go in on their own. The SCV's pulling back. That planetary, oh, he's trying to repair it, but it barely goes down. Nice move for Dark. However, Clem can immediately land a new command center, and if he can just keep on walling off and getting close to maxing out, Clem definitely can win this game. But he's going to push right now. I don't think it's the time to push. I think it's the worst time to trade. He's got to play defensive until he maxes out. Clem, he's not comfortable being on the defense, but he's got to make himself hold on until he's at 200 supply.
Yes, absolutely for that, for sure. So finishing up those upgrades and maybe getting something else going as well if he can. Not really any, again, no nukes, not really any Howling Run buys, no Liberators on the field. It has just been Clem trying to be the wall against Dark's relentless aggression. And once again, Dark looking to maybe do a double-pronged attack. Nidus from coming in, as well as 57 Banelings.
Yeah, just a casual 57 zombie grub. A small contingent is what Dark calls that. Ragnarok himself would also be excited. That's a lot of Terran. He needs to be pre-split. That's a lot of Banelings coming in right now.
Oh, Dark is a big fan of the Banelings. That is a lot of area to cover, though. The spells once again coming down as well. Does Clem have enough to hold on as he splits the ghost backwards and backwards and backwards? We see his supply dip heavily. Where are the Overseers? The ghosts are starting to do some damage, but there's only so many left. That is not yet a planetary. That would have been so helpful to anchor this defense. It does go down, but it looks like this won't be the dominating trade Dark was hoping for. It is still in his favor. He did accrue a bank over the last few minutes. If he can get another army already on the front lines, Clem will have a ton of trouble.
The big mistake for Clem on that defense, and I mean, it isn't really a big mistake, but in this situation it is, because any slight mistake is big. He F2'd his army at the start of that fight and he clumped it up. Now, he did fantastic spreading after that, but when you're dealing with 60 Banelings coming in, you need to be spread perfectly. And now, as he tries to lick his wounds and recover, a Nidus worm in the back of his main, he spotted it, he's heading in that direction, but he's not going to be able to stop it popping up. On the other hand, I don't know if there's anything actually inside it right now.
That's actually a good question. There might not have been, but also the rallying was quite convenient there. Yes, all the lurkers are being made on the front lines. Quite a few of them, I believe something like 14, are trying to end this game. Finally get this mech player out of this Gressfon map. It might work out as it takes down the tanks. The ghosts, I think they're just quite limited on energy. They are still getting those snipes, however. And actually nothing really here to protect the lurkers, to be fair, but I just don't know if we have enough snipes. Oh, here come Ling Baneling as well into the third and the natural.
Yeah, it was a crazy shove of lurkers on their own, but Dark never does anything in isolation, attacking in the north at the same time, and now the lurkers have driven a wedge between two of these expansions, allowing him to split off and ruin Clem's remaining infrastructure and economy. And that should be the finishing blow, because Clem has just lost everything. His units are all walking through lurkers, getting overrun, and that, of course, all comes off those previous couple of engagements. And the tank count just was never able to get back up high enough after that first wave of Broodlords. Dark went nothing but Lingbane Hydra for a while, kept smashing in, overwhelming. And in those last few fights, if there was 3 or 4 more tanks, it could be a totally different story. But Dark never gave him the chance to get there.
Amazing game from both players, absolutely. Dark seemed so well prepared for that particular style of play, constantly on the aggression, opening up opportunities, opening up his own technology, and yet Clem held on. Engagement after engagement, there was always that hope for a second chance, but as Pig just pointed out, eventually the wear and tear of the game had to catch up to Clem.
Yeah, you can't stop D'Artagnan easily. I mean, it was a very, very good attempt from Clem. I like that he played the style, but you just look at the little details, and it's insane how consistently Dark finds Clem weak spots, right? 4 roaches sitting in his 4th base, and I'm like, they're just sitting there for a minute. What's he waiting for? The moment all their Hellions tried to dive on creep, bam, the roaches go in, kill 10 SCVs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's these moves over and over again. And then, okay, I've managed to okay, I'm losing the trades, 5 Burrowed Infestors pop up. Get the Cyclones, get all the Banshees off the map. Immediately tunnels his roaches and starts harassing all the bases. It feels like Dark is so quick to find the moment that Clem's on his side of the map. He punishes it, gets across there, and he's just such a nightmare to play against.
I really like the difference between these two pictures. I absolutely agree with it. Great choices, production. Great choices. Clem is an absolute beast in StarCraft, but what a sweet guy, as we do end up talking to him quite a bit at these events. We are getting into Game 2, guys. Dark looking like an absolute killer, for sure. It's Neo Humanity for Map 2. In the top left, after a fantastic game against BattleMech, we do have the DPG's Dark.
And in the bottom right side, he put up a good effort with a very different style, something he's not that experienced with. I think he's going to go back to his bread and butter in this one. It's Team Liquid's Clem.
Neo Humanity, man. I know we've talked about it a bit, but just the fact that it has arrived in multiple best of threes has been one of the surprises of the tournament for me. Very, very unique map. But despite being unique, actually, a lot of people say that they like it. They like the variety, even if they might see some, bad things for their particular race or particular matchup. In this matchup, I have heard some really good things about Terran Turtle, right? Terran camping on this map. So I do wonder, does Clem go BattleMech again? That I'm not so sure about, but does he find himself in a more comfortable position to actually get into that mid to late game? Maybe, because of the map.
It's funny because I always feel like Clem's strength is just out multitasking his opponent, and I really wish he played more Biomine versus Dark and just put so much pressure on that Dark never gets a chance to breathe, with just a few little things like a few spotters for Ling run bys and stuff like that. That's it. Just prepare, because he's going to try and backstab you when you're being that aggressive. The thing is, you look at this map, and like you said, it's great for totaling. There are some delicious tank spots on this map. I don't think Clem can resist playing siege tanks, whether it's mech or if it's just Marines with siege tanks. I mean, as the SCV comes past this rich gas base, if you get tanks behind that, either defensively or offensively, it's so hard to break.
Additionally, since Dark is someone who always adds, or almost always adds, the option of going for roaches, it's really hard to feel comfortable skipping tanks and going right into the Widow Mines, which really does supercharge Clem's style of play. And what was working really well before some Zerg started figuring like, oh, you're a bit greedy in the early game, aren't you? So yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be just too difficult not to go into those tanks, try to abuse those positions. But we are kind of like eyes on Clem right now. Dark has shown that he can deal with anything now, as he did face a very strong BattleMech opponent. Now maybe we'll get to see him face Clem's bio.
Funny point, Zombie Grub, on that. I actually think Rogue was very good at hiding when he was going roaches, and was really dangerous if you were going straight Widow Mines. I don't know if Dark is. I feel like it's only the opening where it's scary, because he does the early roach push. But other than that, I very rarely see Dark pretend like, hey, I've got 7-8 queens, I've got 20-30 Zerglings, surprise, 50 roaches with 1-1 upgrades. That's what Rogue was so good at pulling off. But it's kind of funny, because like when Dark's playing roaches, he very rarely tries to hide it. But just an interesting little theoretical discussion that Clem could be thinking about in his planning stage. But as it is, the third command center goes down, the second gas, the starport. We are going to see business as usual for Clem. Don't think he's too demotivated by that last game.
Yeah, I would consider him actually, perhaps in the past, being someone who can destabilize very quickly after a loss. He's really worked on that in particular. So he should still be very confident as he does his 3CC build again. Seems like he is showing that confidence. Another issue about the map that was brought up, great turtle for the Terran, okay, fine. Also the Xel'Nagas. Once the Terran has those, they're just kind of very difficult to actually accomplish any types of run-bys or surprise attacks.
That's a really good point, Zombie Grub. It shuts down the corners completely, and Zerg is all about those corners, flanking and surprising later on. That's exactly what Dark always does here versus Clem. And for now, nice queen split for Dark. He's taking the front base. The Hellions just looking for any pickoffs. A Viking and into Stim. I like this sort of style from Clem. It shows that he's going to be a little bit more focused on efficiency over safety, not investing in the early Banshee.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the Banshees really, in that last game, not super successful. I mean, they recruit a response, and they have other avenues of working out rather than just direct damage, but not a whole lot of drone damage done. And they're great defensively if you are fearful of some type of more early or mid-game attack, but if Clem's kind of saying, I don't think I need to worry about this, I think I can get away with it, then he can really streamline his build and have that supercharged early attack like we were talking about. I mean, and if he goes into Widow Mines too, I mean, it would be like super classic Clem.
Roach Warren going down for Dark there. Interesting. because that's a pretty late Roach Warren, and it really does look like a Queen Zergling style up to now. But Roach Warren will be coming out up against Stim for Clem. Keeping an eye on that production tab to see if there's any reactors or tech labs popping up there, as it's about time when you... okay, no, it is factory on a tech lab, so we will be seeing the siege tanks for sure. And Spore Gorillas going down on each base, but not much for them to actually stop. It feels like Clem is just rushing straight to the Marine tank stage of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. What has Dark scouted so far? Well, that Ling's about to get in and see everything, so that was perfectly timed. So he's going to see that, in fact, it is bio. He's going to see there was a tech lab on the factory. He's going to know everything that we know. Panic scan? Not sure what that was.
Oh, did he think that borrowed?
Might have.
Because the way it's placed, that's not where you'd place a mule. So, yeah, that's a very odd mistake there. Maybe trying to start combat shields. He misclicked the tech lab. Still had the command center selected. Nasty.
Yeah.
And 1-1 range upgrades going in for Dark, so he's committing pretty hard to the Roach style. Often players will go 1-1. 20-30 Roaches, and then they'll swap back into melee and go for the Baneling tech.
Yes.
But Dark is capable of doing the old just Roaches up into Lurkers and Vipers. He's very good at that style.
He's good at both. Just like, want to start good at? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, name a thing that Dark's bad at. Efficient early game build orders is the one thing I'd say. He's like, his early game build orders, like you can tell he's almost making it up on the fly half the time. It's it lacks the precision of something like someone like Lambo might have, but he's so good at flowing from there.
Highlands will dive in to try and get some drones. There's little drones around. That could have maybe been a few more. 6 is still not bad for the investment. They're kind of like done with, you know, the Hellions aren't so important anymore. Clem's up to 3 bases, Dark's up to 4. Clem also knowledge of what his opponent is doing too. When I think about doing a very dedicated Roach attack on this map, that is certainly where I'd be worried. So I think we're more so looking for your point. Where's the next stage for the macro game? Is it going to be in the Lurkers? Is it going to the Baneling Nests? Dark is adding an Infestation Pit, a first sign towards his intentions.
Seizure warning, by the way, guys, girls, ladies, gents, Zealots, Zerglings, Marines. This is Dark's first-person view. And he was the first person I watched, first person, that broke my brain. He's so good at playing incredibly fast. He can deal with multi-prong harassment in 3-4 locations without breaking a sweat. Look at that. Viking lands on a Zergling, instantly pulls it away. He's spamming his injects. He's rotating through, morphing Ravages, spreading creep like a madman. The pace he is playing at, this is blitzing.
Yeah, I'd love to see us go directly into Clem, though, because just like, Clem is also really, really, really absurdly fast, but
Clem might be too fast. Like when I watch that, I'm like, your brain can't possibly process these screens this fast, can you? Like, it's so difficult for me to watch his camera and keep up.
Yeah, it is. But of course, we need to actually pay attention to anything that's happening in the game more than just how amazingly fast these guys are. So we do have a large group of Marines, notably though, not with the tanks coming along, right? So this is basically non-committed. It's enough to say, like, if they surprise Dark, yeah, they could do a lot of damage, but everything that does splash is back at home, so he could just get out there with his medevacs. A little bit of a poke. That was actually it.
Yeah.
And then what he saw tells him to continue being defensive. Did he just scan as well for the main? I mean, maybe he should be, because Dark is capable of choosing a moment to attack, but he is actually trying to add on a lot of technology and a lot of infrastructure.
3 bunkers building as well. Clem is not taking any chances in this game. He's going to put a command center out front, one which I imagine he keeps as an orbital in this game because he wants to actually defend from behind that base.
Yeah, that's something you can do for sure.
So if you leave it as an orbital, you can lift it up and avoid the banelings essentially, because it's just that wedge behind. You can also destroy those little towers behind the minerals on this map and put siege tanks wedged in there. So I'd like to see Clem do that and move his siege tanks forward.
That would be a nice move. He's once again out in the field with the Marines, looking to clear up any creep that he can. Neither player really wanting to dedicate to anything super aggressive. That's a kind of a cool split right there. And it is going to be Clem who is looking maybe to inch forward from his base. That would be the reason I have the planetary right, is that it does help anchor if you're in a bit more of like a back and forth. So it does look like it's going to be a planetary, although your point was also excellent. We do have 2-2 finishing up for Clem. Continued additional siege units as well. Already a healthy tank count. Adding on some Liberators. Harassment now a little bit cheaper than it was before. And if his medevac count is already decent, then there's not necessarily a huge benefit to going up to, like, 8, 10, 12, 14 or something like that.
I feel like Dark should break those rocks down now so he can start clearing them. Because otherwise Clem is going to drop those rocks on you when you start marching forward to try and force an engagement. You got to be really careful in this middle area as Dark.
Yes, indeed. He is making sure to never be coming in through one area. If he just panic retreated right now only to the place that Clem is pushing, he would be like, yeah, thank you, very much so, and they continue tank pushing, right? But he also has to be wary. He knows that Dark is splitting. He knows that he could actually go for the push at any moment, and that's exactly what Dark does. Has the Vipers coming in from the side. Excellent maneuver right there from Dark, who is currently just pushing Clem back. The tank line is deep, but so many of those tanks taken out of the equation because of that Viper. This made it extremely dangerous, and Clem almost just ran back into Banelings.
Yeah, that was very close. He actually took a big volley of tank splash damage from some Zerglings there. And that was a great trade for Dark because he can instantly remax. Clem cannot. And Clem needs to just pull back and turtle. He keeps pushing aggressively. This is what Clem likes to do. And that works well when you're playing Biomine. It does not work very well with siege tanks. Clem should not be moving in the direction he is right now. It's really bad because if he gets too far away from the tanks, he has to pick up. The moment the tanks are unsupported,
right,
Lings will run on top. So he's leaving a potential opening for Dark, something he's got to be very wary of. When these ultras pop out and Chitinous finishes, Dark will be looking to jump on that army.
Yeah, I mean, Clem, he was maybe hoping that was a little bit scarier, but Dark just said, like, yeah, I'm not scared of you, man. So he is going to have to kind of reset to a degree, try and get that tank count back up, and then focus on making sure that he has a foundation for the rest of this game. So, of course, more expansion. The 5th base now coming up on the right side, 6th finishing as well, an extra orbital, I believe. If he does move over to the right, then the left will be a little bit open. And the planetary by itself will not hold against much. So you're going to keep that in mind as you watch the game develop. Dark, not wanting him to get in control of that Zelnaga, is going to be rushing forth. Seconds away from Kaiba's plating, finishing. There you have it. Perfectly timed for Dark. This is a long battle, but Dark is looking to commit to it.
A lot of the Bio's running. It's not able to stand and fight with the tanks. This is exactly the problem I was talking about earlier, Zombie Grub. If your Bio's running backwards, the tanks go down so quickly. But Dark may be chasing too far. That bunker positioning is nice. Biles take out the tanks. The Marines and the Marauders do gun down a bunch of those Ultras, though. Ravagers doing some defensive Biles, making it hard to chase him down. But it looks like Clem does have the numbers to push Dark back for now.
Yeah, I think Crucible Biles actually hitting a lot of the Medivacs too. So they're quite injured, but they are here. They have a decent amount of energy as well, and it looks like Clem was able to at least take the remnants of the army, right? Not let anything retreat. But Dark, he is pretty wealthy. 82 drones on a lot of bases. He did just use a bank there to remax like he did, so it's not super easy peasy. And Dark will have to be cautious of doing that one too many times and having, you know, even worse engagements, of course, because that one was decent. But all it takes is underestimating how many tanks are up that high ground, for instance, before you're really regretting life as a Zerg.
Well, Dark's biding his time for just a second, waiting for a few units. He sees the Bio sitting out front again, and he's going to try and dive on front. The Bio looking to get behind the Planetary, goes stumbling into this battle. Lots of micro needed for Clem as the parasitic bombs take his Medivacs out of the skies. The SCVs evacuating. The Ultras do start to fall to the Liberator Ghost. The Planetary does fall.
You know, if he didn't evacuate the SCVs, which is a natural response, you can't really blame him. He might have actually been able to save that Planetary and kind of hop off of it, too, for an even better push forward. I mean, that's, yeah, Dark is constantly looking for those openings that you're talking about, but Clem seems like he's just 1 second away, one kind of like slightly better engagement from working out. That was also when Clem finally had 3-3, so maybe actually this could be very dangerous for the Zerg, but Dark is relentless. He really wants to take advantage of this, not let Clem get comfortable again. Once again, moving into the space, not even a Planetary this time, which means it can be lifted, but the SCVs are the ones that are goners now, so the Orbital might live, but the SCVs die. And Dark is just looking to engage, and engage again.
Yeah, he's just fighting hard, and it looks like it's just so difficult for Clem to hang on, losing so many workers in the 3rd and the frontal 4th base. He does have a 5th on the right side, and Dark's bank is not that big. I do think Clem still has a chance in this game. The supply is close enough, the army supply especially, but I worry that Clem is every single time his response is to counterattack, and once again, tanks. It's all about putting them in inaccessible locations, putting them really hard to reach areas. And I don't think Clem's been doing a good enough job of protecting those siege tanks this game.
Yeah, that might just be the problem. Isaiah probably just hoping that Dark does make that one fatal overcommittal so that he can immediately pounce back on him. But so far, Dark is sizing up these engagements correctly enough, always having enough of a bank to remax quickly, and then, of course, having his bases free to mine, as Clem is not doing any form of harassment.
Now, there is a siege tank on the ramp. I can't quite remember exactly where the rocks fall down, but he does have to be careful not to have a siege tank where those rocks fall down
true.
and that cooling tower goes down. So something you got to be wary of on both sides. They can actually crush units. And you can see it's only on 40 life. Ultraslings, Bane's coming in. Blinding Cloud to lead the charge. A couple of Liberators doing some decent damage, but oh my, Clem's army is outnumbered.
It's just never really fighting cohesively what it feels like. The bio always running back. The siege units always left unguarded. Clem, you know, he might feel like he's getting something every time he does run back and then gets these snipes. This feels fantastic as a Terran player. And then that fear is that you'll never have enough AoE if they are able to remax over and over again. But that is finally in question. Dark's remaxes, really not all that fast. His bank not actually existent. He's mining super efficiently, for sure, but it's not a bank. So it looks like he is getting maybe a little tired of just doing the same attack over and over again, although it, you know, makes sense. He's adding on something else. Not just Baneling Ultra, but also those Infestors are now on the way.
Oh, Baneling's finding this run by in the bottom left side. Clem can't be affording to throw units away. 7 Infestors on the way for Dark, and they are going to add some real depth. Remember, Clem always wants to run out and counterattack him, and if he does that into a fungal, he could have his day ruined.
No, that's excellent point, because that is always what Clem seems to be want to doing, right? He seems like he's just waiting for that moment to go, yeah, I can come after you right now. You don't have the Banelings, you don't have the army. And then if he does that, thinking that he finally has that chance, boom, fungals come down. 20 SCVs just died somewhere. But they did.
That was in a base, Zombie Grub.
That was in a base. Oh, sorry.
The natural seems very empty, so I imagine it was there, but I didn't even think he was at 80 SCVs. He was at like 75. I guess he built a few more. Banelings must have just snuck in and caught a rally of SCVs moving out. Here we go. Blinding Clouds will be going down on the siege tanks. The Bio Ghost trying to fall backwards. Liberators are not siege right now. The Ghosts trying to pull back to the right side. Bio's landing on everything.
I mean, a lot of the Ghosts survived, though, right? Like, that actually started with Clem getting a couple of EMPs. Ultras are moving over to the right side, though, as well, so Dark's entire army wasn't actually present. But the Ultras are not going to take out the Planetary. More importantly, the Fungal finally did come down on Clem's attempt to take revenge, to actually go after his opponent, and he is not really coming across this map with very much, is he?
No, Clem's trying to counterattack, but he walked into a big fungal. He lost so many bio units there, and you can see there's just not enough support for these siege tanks. Great fungal on the medevacs as well as Biles damaging them. Dark is still rich in comparison to Clem, who is, of course, very low on money, trying to float an orbital out to that 6th base on the left side. Fungal whiffs there. Clem trying to force a forward fight here.
Well,
but my gosh, he's outnumbered.
Yeah, the army supply now significantly different. Now a Nidus Swarm coming in his main base as well. But Clem did just take out a lot of the spells, at the very least, a couple of EMPs, but there's still a few more afterwards. Clem thinks that this might be able to do it. Only a 10 army supply difference. That could actually disappear in a flash. The Infestor's not involved. Baneling's not actually getting the connections. Some of the army elsewhere. So you see the picture-in-picture. Lings in the main base being responded to a bit too late for comfort. Now Clem has a new problem to deal with.
Yeah, that Nidus Worm is so annoying. It's actually not something that Rally can easily deal with, and any cheap trade like that for Dark is so effective. Look at that. Oh, it's tearing up the production in the main, getting such good value. Dark's army's going to look for the jump in on the front as well. He's going to go around the right side with an Ultralist. If he gets that in the mineral line, he'll take out dozens of SCVs. Drones are hiding here on the left side. The Bailey Nest will go down. No secondary Bailey Nest in this game. And the Ghosts are cleaning up the drones on the left side, but so much more damage being done on Clem's side of the map. Yeah,
it's a bit of a base trade, but of course Clem's production being camped is the ultimate gut punch for the Terran. He's clearing up some bases that Dark, still does kind of need. Again, not a huge bank here, but Dark has more time on his side. He's got a double Nidus Worm in the main base now too. He's really going to hammer that point home. Clem, you're not going to have production. You're not going to have mining. You're going to have 79 army supply, and that's it.
Dark is such an expert at this matchup, and once again he shows how it's done with absolutely stellar Zerg versus Terran, endless waves of assault from all sides, amazing spellcaster usage, the